The world that we live in is sometimes a stranger place than we can ever imagine. We've conquered the seas, but only know 3% of what lives in the deepest parts of it. And as for the Earth, humans cover a large part of it, most of it in fact, but there are still areas that most of us are yet to see. Places all over this world of ours that we struggle to understand, and places that have to be seen to be believed. Bermuda Triangle. No list about strange places on this big blue world we live on would be complete without the Bermuda Triangle. Did you know that the Bermuda Triangle was also known as the Devil's Triangle? Sounds strange, right? But nowhere near as strange as the place itself. The area itself is loosely defined, but can be found in the western part of the North Atlantic Ocean. In this stormy and mysterious place, the number of aircrafts and ships to disappear is unknown. All of them did so under mysterious circumstances. Some people, it turns out, dismiss any mystery surrounding this patch of ocean, and it's heavily traveled by both pleasure crafts and commercial vessels. The triangle we're talking about is located with one point off the tip of Florida, one point just off the shores of Puerto Rico in the Caribbean, and the third point of the triangle lies out to sea in the middle of the Atlantic on the island of Bermuda, where it takes its name. There are hundreds of rumors, legends, and myths surrounding the Bermuda Triangle. Some of these include UFO sightings and tales of paranormal activity. Here, in the place where fishermen have gone missing with their boat and crew. This place where whole airplanes have vanished along with their pilot, the cabin crew, and every last passenger aboard. This mysterious patch of rough sea where storms take shipping vessels whole and disappear into the calm of the morning. Entire battleships have sailed in one side and failed to come out the other, disappearing with over 100 men on board. Another tale tells of a grand schooner with 5 masts that was found run aground, missing its entire crew. A training flight group containing 5 fighter pilots once flew through the Bermuda Triangle and were never heard from again. This, then, really is one of the strangest places on Earth, and one of the 5 mysterious places on Earth that are hard to explain. Lake Anjikuni, Canada. All over the world there are tales of places that people have gone missing in large groups. With today's technology, these happenings are less and less, but they do still happen. Remember flight MH370 from Malaysia that went missing in March 2014? Case in point. Well, here then we have another of the mysterious places on Earth that you may not know about. Nestled in amongst the rocky outcrops of the Canadian wilderness lies a lake like no other. I'll put it this way. This isn't the type of lake where you'll be wanting to take your family fishing by the banks. Way back in the 1930s, there was an amazing event that still hasn't been explained to this day. In a place called the Pas in Manitoba, there was a news report about a small Inuit village that lay right off the banks of Lake Anjikuni. There was, in those days, a large fur trade industry in the area. The local fur trappers in the area knew the people of the fishing village well, as they passed through often and sometimes traded with them. One local fur trapper in particular, by the name of Joe LaBelle, was respected and welcomed by the villagers. Then came the mysterious day in 1930 when Joe passed the fishing village as he regularly would. This time was different though. As Joe approached the village, he found it quiet, too quiet. Joe had found that all the villagers were gone. Not one of them remained. Reports stated that Joe had found the village as if everything had stopped at once. There were unfinished shirts with the needle and thread still hanging from them. There was food over the fire pits. Worse still, there were dogs that had died from starvation, and a grave had been dug up without removing any of the surrounding stones, so it could not have been done by animals. There was a large hunt carried out to try and find the villagers, but not one of them was ever found. So a lake that took over 1,000 people in a moment definitely deserves a place on this list. Nazca Lines. There are few things on this Earth of ours that are more mysterious than clues left about our planet's past. The tribes and peoples that lived centuries ago seem to know so much about life. Some of these tribes have left us clues to our past, our present, and perhaps even our future. One such civilization was the Nazca tribe. The Nazca tribe lived on the southern coast of Peru between the years 200 BCE and 600 CE. Even though they lived such a very long time ago, due to the fact that they were so skilled in the arts of pottery and textiles, there is still much that remains of the culture today. Though many artifacts have been found relating to the Nazca civilization, perhaps their best parting gift was the Nazca lines. The Nazca lines are known scientifically as geoglyphs. A geoglyph is a motif of design that's produced on the ground using pieces of the landscape to do so. The Nazca lines are one of the largest collections of ancient geoglyphs on Earth. The longer figures amongst the collection are nearly 400 meters in length. These huge drawings cover an area of around 80 kilometers and differ in complexity, ranging from some that are simple geometric shapes and lines to others that are more zoomorphic. These zoomorphic designs are of animals like fish, birds, jaguars, monkeys, and human figures. There are other drawings that depict flowers or trees as well. Some of these symbols are believed to have been fertility symbols, while others are believed to attempt to summon rainwater. There are some people who still believe that the Nazca people could not have drawn these amazing figures without flying over to ensure their accuracy. There was even one scientist who attempted to build a balloon with material available in the time of the Nazca. It barely flew, and other scientists debunked his claims, saying that there have never been any remains found of any balloon like it. Whatever the reason for these amazing and mysterious drawings that are etched out of the landscape and are visible from great distances, they're here to stay, and have been for several thousand years. Eternal Flame Falls. Number 2 on our list comes in the shape of Eternal Flames Falls. Some of the places that we've discussed while searching for our 5 mysterious places that are hard to explain can really take your breath away. Well, here's another one. When you close your eyes and imagine a fairy tale-like place where heaven meets hell and all in between, you'll probably be seeing something like Eternal Falls. This place is truly mysterious, and there are many people who have tried and failed to explain its strange occurrences. If you take the walking trails that wind as they cut through and across the Chestnut Ridge Park, you'll be on your way to beholding what has to be one of the natural wonders of the world. Hidden in Shale Creek, there's a sight that the eyes will not believe, and the mind won't be able to understand: the Eternal Flame Falls. The Eternal Flame Falls deserves a place amongst the world's most mysterious places. Why, you ask? Well, these are no ordinary falls. As you can guess, there's fire involved here, a thing that you don't usually associate with waterfalls. A rock face chiseled out of granite rock by millions of years of cascading water, these are not as wide as Niagara Falls or anywhere near as long as Victoria Falls. But these falls have a trick up their sleeve that the others could only wish for: fire. Behind the thin wall of water, which originates at a spring further up in the mountains, the eternal flame that lends its name to the waterfall around it is truly a spectacle to be seen. The flame never dies. It never goes out. Scientists have said that the flame is caused by vents that push natural gas up from deep in the earth. The wall of the cliff can be seen to show an amazing display of different colors as the water from above streams down over its face. So, a flame that never dies, which is set inside a cave carved out of a cliff faced by water, which now runs down across the face of it and in front of the eternal flame itself. Superstition Mountains, Phoenix, Arizona. Last on our list, but by no means least, are the spectacular and mysterious Superstition Mountains. When you think of mountains, you'll probably be thinking about Mount Everest or perhaps the snowy peaks of the Himalayas, but there are other mountains in the world that are far less famous and 100% more mysterious. One such mountain range is found in Phoenix, Arizona. As far as mountains go, these here are amongst the creepiest out there. Named after their long history of mysterious deaths and spooky disappearances, the Superstition Mountains have taken more lives than the records can tell. And the records show that the number of known deaths in these mountains is high. One story tells of a young couple who had always wanted to build and live in a log cabin in the forest. The young couple had been recently married, and as a gift, their parents bought them a patch of land with a run-down old cabin on it. The couple spent the summer building their dream home in the woods. When the couple's family didn't hear from them, they went to the cabin to find them. The cabin was there, all new and smelling of freshly sawn wood. All the couple's belongings were there, and the door was locked and bolted from the inside. But there was no sign of the young couple. They were never seen again. Some Apache Indians believe that this place is one of the links between our world and the next one. It's said that the hole leading down to the lower world, effectively the gateway to hell, is located somewhere in Superstition Mountains. There's also another superstition here, as the area was once known for gold mining. There was a German migrant who once came here in search of riches. Jacob Waltz apparently discovered a motherload of gold in these mountain ranges. He would have taken the secret to his grave, but instead he told a carer about it on his deathbed. There are several mines that have claimed to be the Lost Dutchman's gold mine, but not one claim has been verified in any way. If you do find yourself in Superstition Mountains, there's a museum that houses any old artifacts found from the Dutchman and his mine. Door to nowhere. Sonning, a relatively small town in the UK, is the site of a very strange and mysterious doorway that's appeared at the base of a sunning bridge that's only accessible by boat. The door also leads to absolutely nowhere, and nobody has any idea who could possibly have planted it there. Some people have suggested that it could be a piece of artwork by an artist known as Impro, and others have said that it could very well be a political statement directed at the British Prime Minister. So far, there's not much to go on, so speculation is rampant. Locals have been having fun by driving boats up to it to knock and see what they can find out about it. The funny thing is that it doesn't look out of place at all, and looks very much like it's been there for quite some time, despite its recent appearance. We suspect that we'll eventually hear more about this door, but for now, it's a complete mystery. Hunga Tonga. Islands seem to be popping up out of nowhere these days, rising out of the sea quite suddenly at times. That's what happened to Hunga Tonga, when an underwater volcano gave birth to the island in the South Pacific. The thing was, everybody expected that it would eventually recede back into the ocean and was only a temporary landmark. It turns out that isn't the case, and that this tiny little island is here to stay, which is kinda neat. It was given a lifespan of a few months way back in 2014, but is now scheduled to stick around for at least another few years. It doesn't have much to look at just yet, but reaches up to a point of 120 meters above the surface of the ocean. It's technically a part of the nation of Tonga, which itself is pretty remote, so it's not easy to get there, and we wouldn't advise it anyway because of, evidence of recent underwater volcanoes capable of creating entire islands being active in the area. What astounded scientists was that some chemical process was what led to the material that the island is composed of beginning to solidify and maintain its structure, which nobody expected to happen in the least. We don't know much about these things, but those who do are still scrambling to figure out exactly what's going on that's keeping the new island so structurally sound. And it sounds like it could have all sorts of applications if they manage to find something interesting to report. They say that the surrounding seawater could have somehow combined with the volcanic ash, which is what most of the island is made of. We don't know what the chances of that are, but it does sound pretty cool. Gavsa Lake. It isn't every day that a lake just appears out of nowhere, and it's even less likely for said lake to perform its magic trick in a desert of all places. That's why Gavsa Lake is all the more incredible, adding a whole new level to its birth. It's located south of Tunisia, in an area that's most definitely classified as being desert. It formed to be around 20 feet deep and covers around 1 hectare or so. The waters are crystal clear and quite safe to swim in, with locals making frequent trips to the site in order to enjoy the benefits of having such an important water source so close by. We're sure that the fact that it only recently popped up is sufficiently exciting to bring them in, regardless of all the other benefits. Furthermore, who doesn't like playing in lakes? The lake was first discovered in 2014 when a group of shepherds was passing through the usually barren area and were blown away by what they saw. We bet they assumed it was one of the most realistic mirages ever until they got right up to it. They knew the area well and were sure that nothing of the sort had been there before then, reporting the lake once they got home. The area has issues with droughts, so the lake really is a lifesaver, and locals are convinced that the lake was some sort of sign or the result of a spell cast on the area. Whatever the reason, they're making the most of their good luck. Unfortunately, there might be an issue with their new lake, as the waters are slowly transforming from being pristine and clear to darker and discolored, as well as more murky. A ban has been put in place with regard to swimming in the lake these days, with public health concerns cited as the reason for the closure. But the rules aren't strictly enforced, so people do it anyway. Scientists mostly maintain that it's likely that the lake is dangerous in some way and have agreed with the ban. They say that the lake was probably formed when an underwater river was diverted after a minor earthquake, and that the area has high deposits of phosphates, which can release carcinogenic and radioactive waste, which is actually a pretty good reason to stay well away from it. That's gotta be tough for a group of people living in a desert to take, especially with the popular belief that the lake was somehow bestowed upon them by a higher power. Until further tests are completed, it'll remain unclear just how dangerous the lake is to swim in, although the inability of the authorities to keep people away from the area up until now means that people will probably continue to make use of it regardless of the ultimate decision. Portal to another dimension. One of the most recent and unusual reports to come out of China is that it seems to be experiencing some sort of mass opening of portals that reveal entire cities from what many people are speculating to be another dimension. There's plenty of evidence to back these claims up, with multiple events being captured on camera in recent years. Nobody's been able to explain what these visions are, although many scientists have claimed that it's probably just a strange cloud formation, or even the effects of air pollution that's beginning to take a serious toll on the environment and weather patterns. We don't know about you, but we like to try to look at these kinds of things from all angles, and do prefer to look for scientific answers in what we're looking at, but this case seems to defy all logic, if we're being honest. The video footage isn't the best quality, and is quite grainy or out of focus, but we'll concede that it is quite mysterious. It could be that a group of people are just having some fun and starting a trend, kinda like the random and almost primal yelling into the night that some Swedes like to engage in for no apparent reason at all, which is actually a thing. It wouldn't be the first time that people have fallen for videos that later turned out to be hoaxes, but this is one story that we really hope is actually a thing. I mean, we doubt it, but we can't completely rule it out, as it's still potentially within the realm of possibility. It seems like these portals have, so far, not allowed any communication, but many theorists are hopeful that they can eventually break that barrier, assuming they can figure out what the hell's going on first. It's also strange that the Chinese government hasn't tried to do anything about this phenomenon, and no news outlets have picked up on it to confirm for the most part. This leads us to believe that it could just be a series of hoaxes or an illusion, and not the real deal, which would be a little disappointing because a city in another universe would be an awesome vacation destination, to be sure. It seems like the most likely scenario here is that the cities are merely an optical illusion of some sort, as it's hard to argue with so many people seeing them. It seems that there's even a term for an illusion that's very similar to this, called Fata Morgana, which is an inversion of distant objects, usually boats, seeming to get stretched and look like skyscrapers. Whatever the reason, it's a pretty cool thing for people to have seen, and we wouldn't mind checking it out for ourselves. Hidden Gateway. When we were first told that it was possible that a mysterious gateway created by the gods and located in a secret location in the mountains of Arizona allowed travel between multiple dimensions and was also able to alter time itself, we also had to check out the story for ourselves to see if there was any truth to it. The claims are quite lofty, even more bizarre, and completely out of this world, but there's a growing group who believe that it could very well be true after all. A group of treasure hunters recently claimed that they were close to the Mexican border one night when they saw strange lights appear in the sky and draw their attention. This is when they also noticed that the lights weren't alone, and say that they saw huge rocks falling from the sky as well, which is pretty far out to say the least. Many claim that this is the most recent piece of evidence to suggest that a story dating back past the 1950s has some actual substance to it. The stories tell of a stone archway standing on its own somewhere in the hills. The first people to discover the arch in modern times was a group of Native American hunters who stumbled across it and began jumping through. One walked through but disappeared as he crossed the barrier, leading the others to scatter in terror. Many people say they've traveled to the spot today and seen the arch for themselves, but nobody's been able to activate it, as it's in a state of relative ruin, and many say that its advanced state of decay has led to it ceasing to operate. It could also be that it needs some kind of input to start up, or can only be activated from the other side, as other theorists have pointed out. Other witnesses have claimed to have seen horses disappear through the arch, saying that it could account for the fact that wild horses used to be prolific in the area but aren't there any longer. But these claims are mostly unsubstantiated, and we think they're a little far-fetched, despite the fact that we are, in fact, speculating about an interdimensional portal in Arizona. There are plenty of stories that people attribute to this gateway, with falling rocks featuring in a number of them. Some even say that the rocks, when approached, are warm to the touch, which would definitely be a strange turn of events. They say this is evidence that they aren't some sort of illusion and that something strange really is happening in the mountains of Arizona.